Hey, MBA Wave. I can't even talk. Hey, MBA hopefuls. Welcome to MBA Waves. My name is Lucrezia, and we're going to get started right away talking about navigating the waitlist zone and rejections. MBA Waves is all about business and education, all things about the whole MBA journey. And we've got two great guests with us tonight. But first, I want to say hi to my fellow co-hosts. Hi, Bara. Hi, Krithika.
Hi. Good to see you.
You too. And joining us today, we got from Texas, Rodrigo Malta. How you doing, Rodrigo?
Doing great. Great to be here. Hi, everybody.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Rodrigo Malta. I also go by Digo, D-I-G-O. My team calls me Digo. A lot of people call me Rodrigo. You can call me those two names in front of me. You can call me whatever you want behind my back, because I'm not going to know. But I'm the managing director of MBA Recruitment and Admissions here at Texas McCombs. I'm also a graduate of the MBA program, class of 2007. I'm originally from Brazil. I've been in Texas for the past 15 years and really excited to be here.
Nice. Thank you. And Sherry Holland, I'm not sure where you are.
Well, I'm in Santa Barbara. I'm in Paradise, Santa Barbara, California. And
Nice.
This is not a fake background. This is actually an orange tree in my backyard. I am a consultant with Stacy Blackman Consulting. I've been working with her and clients for going on 15 years now, and formerly an admissions director or assistant admissions director at the Fuqua School of Business at Duke. Worked there for 4 years, did lots of international recruitment, and worked with clients, at that point it was students, prospective students, as well as students, and help them through the whole process of, hopefully recruiting them to Duke and then being admitted. So kind of worked for many years with folks who are prospective MBA candidates. And I love it. And I'm happy to be here today.
I'm excited to have you both. I love Duke. And by the way, that's not a fake background either. That is a real wine cellar. So anyway, today we're going to dive right into this topic. I'm excited to have you both with us, two experts on the topic. So let's just dive right into it. We're talking about two things right here, which could both lead to a lot of frustration and anxiety. Let's talk about first being waitlisted. If we get a waitlisted letter in the mail, how do we interpret that? And whoever wants to take it first, you can just dive right in.
I can take a stab at it. I was looking at the topics. I was like, we promise we're going to make waitlist and rejections fun, y'all. It's not all bad news. So I'll start with, if you do get an invitation to be on the wait list for different schools, is really not bad news. So the admissions committee saw something in you that they liked. And they want to continue that conversation. So I would approach the waitlist as a continuing conversation and a continuation of the admissions process. You can't necessarily control the market or pool you're in the, any given year you apply. The market, the pool of applicants may look a little different, but you can control the way you approach challenges such as the waitlist. So think of it as an opportunity to continue the conversation with the admissions committee and hopefully turn that waitlist invitation into an admissions offer.
Yeah, awesome. Sherry, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I wanted to let you go first, Rodrigo, just because you live it. You're in the admissions office right now. What I tell my clients is very similar to what you said. Is it's a good thing. It's way better than a deny, and we'll talk about denies later. But you still have an opportunity. So there is I use it as an opportunity, and I encourage clients to be self-aware. Let's look back at your application. Let's look, what did we miss, if we missed anything, or is there anything that they can enhance to make themselves a stronger candidate and prove to folks like Diego over there, Rodrigo, and show them that you realize that there might have been some weaknesses. Maybe you need something, maybe you need to clarify something. But I know from my experience attending conferences and meeting with admissions officers all around the country and the world, actually, is that they're looking for people who are self-aware, who can identify their own weaknesses and be accountable. And so maybe you need to retake a test. I know that's not what people want to hear, but maybe you do. Maybe you need to think about taking a class to prove to them you have the analytical and quantitative skills to handle the rigor of the MBA program. But it just gives you an opportunity. And then I love a lot of creative opportunities to show the AdCom, hey, I'm super passionate about McCombs and I want to be there and I'm going to prove to the admissions committee I'm coming. So there's a lot more to talk about, but it's an opportunity. I absolutely agree with that. And it's not the end of the road.
What you're both saying really talks about how the applicant has a growth mindset moment, right? Like they get a moment to take what they've got, which is the wait list, and say, what are you going to do with this? Right. And so instead of getting the doldrums and just kind of like going off and not doing anything, exactly what you're both saying, you get to show them something that they might not have seen before and take that in a creative way and a very active oriented way. So I love that.
And speaking from this side of it, when we get somebody with a wait list, we say, hey, buddy, you still have a chance. You still have a chance and you're not out. So continuing in this line, what do you think is the best thing that we can do in response to a waitlist letter?
So I can get us started again if that's okay. I would say that the first thing is take a deep breath. Ground yourself. It is the wait list, so there is going to be some waiting involved. So I think, there are schools that put you on the wait list automatically. Some will invite you to be a part of the wait list. So you have to kind of formally accept to be a part of the wait list. So if a school is asking you to do that, then take that action. And then what I would invite you to do is just kind of take a step back. Work with your community. It can be, an admissions consultant. It can be somebody in your personal life, a buddy from work. But take a step back and do that introspection that we've talked about, and kind of ground yourself and see, okay, where might be areas of opportunities for me to either clarify my MBA candidacy, or maybe highlight different areas of the candidacy that you think were not highlighted appropriately in the initial submission of the application. But you're going to have a little bit of time on the wait list, so you don't need to do everything the day after you receive that wait list invitation. So take a moment,
a breath, right?
and breath. And it's okay to be frustrated too. So create the space to be frustrated and disappointed. But I think lingering in that space of frustration, disappointment is not gonna help you get out of the wait list. So I think when you're ready, start you working towards that admission again.
Yeah, our emotions wind up being really good memos, but they don't have to dictate exactly what we do. And waiting is part of the name, right? So you gotta wait. How about, is waitlisting more common in early or later rounds? Like, should we handle being waitlisted differently if we get waitlisted in round 1 or a later round? You could take it, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
So I'll share kind of what we see here at Texas McCombs, but I'm really curious to see what Sherry and everybody else here kind of see kind of for your different clients. But for us, waitlisting is more common in the early rounds. So rounds 1 and round 2 are the places where we waitlist the most individuals. There's a little bit less runway when it comes to the actual program start in rounds 3 or round 4. If we have a round 4, we have a round 4 this current year. So, what I'll share is we don't waitlist people for fun. So if we're waitlisting somebody, one, we saw something in you that we liked, that want to keep you as somebody that we might invite to be a part of the program. But we also utilize the waitlist to fill the class. So there are a significant number of offers that usually come from our waitlisted applicants. So keeping that engagement up and kind of working on yourself and your candidacy during that time is really important.
That makes a lot of sense. Sherry, what do you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, from what I've seen and also from my history working at Fuqua, tend to waitlist more early because we want to be able to see what the next round has to offer in the way of candidates, and looking at the pool and, is that person as competitive from round 1 waitlist as the round 2 or round 3 applicant. So, we need to come with a really diverse class, and we want to get the best of the best. And so we kind of hold that, often hold them off until a little bit later, and then we can make those decisions. And again, kind of yield is important. I mean, a lot of folks don't know what yield is, but you know, the schools want to know that if they extend an offer that you're going to accept. And so that's important to them to a certain extent. I'm not saying that's the be all end all, but being able to demonstrate to them that, you know, the school that you're going to accept if admitted makes a difference. I think, at least that's what I tell my clients. So you can tell me if I'm wrong, Rodrigo.
You are correct. And I kind of wanted to revisit, if we have just a couple minutes, the previous question about the best thing to do in response to that waitlist letter really quickly, because I had jotted down a couple notes that I wanted to share with the listeners. One of the things, in addition to waiting and listening, is find out how the school is actually inviting you to engage with them. So oftentimes the schools will have a waitlist webinar, they will have a waitlist email box, they will have ambassadors that will be kind of specifically focused in answering questions from individuals on the waitlist. So kind of listen and see how the schools are inviting you to engage with them. For us here at Texas McCombs, we have the waitlist webinar. We have a waitlist email box that's checked by all of our admissions officers, so we can get to you pretty quickly. You know, this time of the year is a crazy time for admissions officers. So if you're emailing our personal email address or reaching out to us via LinkedIn, it may take a little longer. The beauty with the general email box is there are a lot of us checking it, so we can get you answers right away. Kind of listen in and see how schools are inviting you to engage with them. We always appreciate a strong letter of interest that applicants can send, letting us know that we are still their number one choice and they want to be considered for school at Texas McCombs or our MBA programs. Other interesting updates are any resume updates. So if you change jobs, had a promotion, it might be 2 to 3 months from, you know, when you originally submitted your resume. So if there are changes, submit that resume update. And then something that Sherry also said, you know, look at your standardized test situation. Did you do a waiver? Did you submit a score? Can it be better? So kind of assess all areas of the application and see where you can improve on it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And considering what we were speaking about earlier, about how often it's the first 2 rounds that have the highest percentage of people being waitlisted, I hear this question a lot, so I'll let you guys answer it so you hear it from the horse's mouth. If you get rejected in an earlier round, is it possible to apply in a later rounds? This is more about rejection versus waitlisting.
As far as I know, no, I don't know any program that allows you to reapply the same year. However, it's really, and so, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know that, and we'll probably talk about this, we loved reapplicants. You know, it's kind of like being on the wait list to a certain extent, but, you know, showing, hey, show that passion and show that, hey, I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to make myself a stronger candidate, and I want to go to Duke. Team Fuqua. I'm all about Team Fuqua. Or I'm all about, you know, hook 'em horns, you know, whatever it is you want to convey that. And they love reapplicants. So don't.
And to be clear, Sherry, you're talking about waiting to the following year.
Yes, you must wait till, sorry. Yes. To clarify. Yes, absolutely. You have to wait till the next year. As far as I know, there are no programs that allow you to reapply in the same year.
Yep,
I don't believe so, but.
Yeah, I feel like the same way. I haven't heard of any programs that will allow you to reapply in the same year. So the deny letter is unfortunately final for that cycle. So I will second what Sherry said, that just like Duke at Texas McCombs, and I think most schools, they really appreciate reapplicants and that commitment to the school. But as a reapplicant, it is important for you to, again, do that self-assessment and maybe working with somebody that may know you well or may know you not too well, but that can give you that feedback and say, hey, kind of based on what I know, here are maybe areas of opportunities for you if you have a little bit of a hard time doing that own self-assessment yourself. But the admissions committee will be looking for what has changed since the last application. Hopefully those changes have been improvement to your candidacy, maybe promotions at work, maybe better test scores, maybe additional coursework in quant areas, maybe a more refined short, long-term goals, reworked essays that are more clear and concise, etc.
Yeah, the waitlisting wait time doesn't seem so bad when you compare it to having to wait a whole nother cycle. But what about schools that have a fall and a spring intake? Do you have to wait for a full year, or can you wait until just the spring intake, for example?
That I don't know.
That I don't know. That I don't know. I would be curious on y'all's if you had clients that have done that before, because we don't have a fall spring intake, so I don't have a lot of experience in that space.
Yeah,
So
I
think
can
you are
answer to that. Like, for example, there were a couple who were trying for NCR.
Go ahead, Krithika.
Yeah, sorry. I can answer to that. In the sense that, there are a couple schools, a couple candidates who are looking at INSEAD, and then even Columbia, which has a J term, and they have this kind of a thing. But I would say that it depends on how much you're able to move from your previous application to the next. And, it all depends on how much of improvement we can bring there.
I'm not sure if Krithika is frozen, but I think we got the point. Yeah. I think that's the major consideration is like, can you demonstrate some significant improvement? Like, can you show that, okay, in the time since you were unfortunately rejected, have there been some, changes that are noteworthy to the admissions committee to say, okay, actually it's worth giving this person another look because they've either improved their GMAT score, or they've gained some more experience, perhaps a managerial role, or some other successes, or maybe if it was about academics, from your undergrad, that you maybe taken a class to improve your grades in that particular subject that demonstrates that, okay, you can handle the academics in this MBA program that you're applying for.
And I just kind of want to add one kind of additional point to reapplicants, or maybe a piece of advice. So let's say you apply round 2 to Duke, you get rejected in their round 2, and you're like, oh man, but I want to be again part of that team Fuqua, and I want to reapply. There is no reason why you shouldn't be able to put together a strong round 1 application or a strong early application, if I think Duke does that, or for the schools that do it. So you're going to have a great and strong starting point. It's a matter of keeping an eye on what schools are going to be updating in the form of essays and interviews, and then what is that self-assessment that you will partake and see where you can enhance your application overall. But you should be able to submit a strong application in the fall. So my advice to reapplicants is to, if at all possible, aim for that early action or round 1 application deadline, because it will put you in a better position as a reapplicant into the next cycle.
Absolutely.
This also all reemphasizes what we always talk about. There's a couple things we talk about on MBA Waves. One is it depends, right? Like it depends is like our unofficial tagline. But the other one is that so much about the application process is really real life and how you move through the world. And so it's just a reminder that who you are in your application, if it doesn't quite represent you completely and it doesn't quite sparkle the way that you want it to, and you get waitlisted, it's an opportunity, like what we've been talking about. And that's really how you want to live life, isn't it? Right? Ultimately, listener, watcher, right? You like you want to really live life in a way that you're not going to get mired down if things aren't going your way, because maybe you just have to reassess and self-assess. And so I'm always really enamored with the process, even with the testing, even with going through the math and the verbal of the standardized tests. It's like, yeah, it's standardized, but who are you going to be in those moments that you're not quite getting something that you should have gotten in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade? Okay, here's your other chance. How are you going to move through it this time? So I think it's a great reminder for our listeners.
Absolutely.
So, Diego and Sherry, I had a couple questions here about reapplicants, and we talked about them a little bit. What do you guys actually love about reapplicants, and why do you think they are going to be perfect fit for the school? Because many people have this myth saying that, hey, if I'm going to apply to the school again, will I be overlooked? Should I just forget them? Or do you think I would get like a preference for showing commitment and trying to apply to them again?
I think it's the latter. I think that showing that you've done your research on the program, I mean, and making yourself stronger, like we've talked about, but getting there early, applying either early decision, which definitely shows, or early action shows Fuqua and other programs, hey, this is where I'm going, I'm committed, I'm coming if you admit me. But that in addition to, you need to be doing more research, and if you can convey that in your essays, like Rodrigo said, conveying, maybe sharpened short-term and long-term goals, and maybe attending some events online or in person if they allow it. It just shows you're doubling down, you're committing that this is where you want to be. And I think that makes this, I know as on the admissions committee, it always excited me to see somebody who came back, and then we compare it to last year's application. I mean, we don't have a lot of time for that, but we do when we assess them. That back in that day, I actually read hard copies, believe it or not. So I'm that old. And so we'd see the previous year's application and the write-up on it that we do as kind of a synopsis. And we'd see, okay, well, this is how Bara changed from last year, and this is what she's done, and wow. And then I'd go to committee and say, let's take her. She's really proven herself that she wants to be here. And so that's what you want. What I tell my clients is you want an advocate on the admissions committee. You want somebody who's read your file, read your essays. They were so engaging and compelling that they're going to go to the mat for you in committee. And it's super quick. It's not, 10 minutes discussing it, but they're like, she has proven herself. We need her here as a part of Team Fuqua next year. And, sometimes it worked. Often it works, as a reapplicant.
We love the commitment as well. And I would say that reapplicants are generally able to put together really strong applications. So we are excited to see them early in the cycle, because we can kind of bring them in and know that they're going to come. And oftentimes they're the ones that are the first, if admitted, first to sign up for Admitted Student Weekend, and they almost become an advocate and yielder for us, or an extension of the admissions team as we're trying to recruit more individuals to that class. So we do love a good reapplicant. The one thing that I'll say is similar to the waitlist message is do that self-assessment, work on things, but don't overdo it. Right. So you want to make sure that you leverage the resources that the schools have to either work through the waitlist or reapply, but also don't do too much. So you don't need to sign up for every event and attend every event, right? Yes, engagement is amazing, and you should take advantage of as many events as you want, as long as you're learning from them. But don't do it because you feel like that's going to put you in a better position when it comes to demonstrating interest in the program. I think as a reapplicant, the fact that you're reapplying already shows great commitment to the program itself. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, if you're willing to put yourself out there again, you're really showing that you care, that this school is really probably your first choice. And it makes sense that reapplicants have very strong applications because they've sort of been able to refine their approach, right? Hopefully getting some feedback. And that's something I want to get into from you guys, our guests today, about like how that could work with feedback. But also, like you said, Rodrigo, maybe not overdoing it. Like there's maybe such a thing as too much. I've gotten the question before from clients about like, oh, do I need to visit campus to demonstrate my level of commitment? And I don't think so. Some schools actually specifically say you're not required to come visit campus. That it's not going to have any impact on your application as a first-time applicant or a reapp. And it is sort of a luxury to be able to visit campus in person, in terms of time and money, depending on where you're coming from. It might be very far away. Another aspect to reapplication is if you might be aging out, so to speak, or experience leveling out of a certain program, whereas like say if you take the full-time MBA and now you're maybe kind of like at the upper end of the eligibility range. I've seen people pivot to, say, an executive MBA, which might be more appropriate at that point. And I've seen that with success as well. So I think that's interesting to be conscious of the fact that that you may, if it's the following year, you may be more suited for a different program, and to not try to force a square peg into a round hole, and talk to the admissions people or recruiters and see if that makes sense for you based on what your goals are.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what if I apply somewhere else? Do I have to disclose that I've been rejected by another school or even waitlisted at another school? Like, does that have to come into play at all?
I mean, we don't care. So we care about you as the applicant and the application that you put forward, and why you want to come to Texas McCombs to pursue your studies. The fact that you got admitted, waitlisted, or denied in other schools, it's not going to affect our own decision to either admit, waitlist, or deny you. So I would say that's, of course, for you to know. We don't need to know that information. So
yeah, it's like not on your permanent record that's going to follow you around. Like,
no.
One thing, and this is where I would just say, I think it's the whole process is subjective. So if you ever work with me, you will always, that's one of the first things I tell my clients. It's super subjective. So I may disagree with someone else here, and that doesn't make either one of us right or wrong. It's just a different perspective, and different people on the same admissions committees, as we can all say, have different perspectives and different, they interpret essays and applications differently. The reason I say that is that I encourage my clients to going back to the wait list, I encourage them to let the admissions committees know if they've been admitted to other programs, because at least in my mind, and when I was at Fuqua, it kind of affected us. If somebody said, hey, I was admitted to UNC, or I was admitted to Tuck, maybe even with scholarship money, but guess what? I'm coming to Duke if you admit me. That was a powerful message to send. Maybe you want to change, Rodrigo, or maybe I misinterpreted. But I
no. I love that point. So sorry. When I was saying we don't care, I was thinking about a reapplicant. I don't care what happened to you in the previous cycle. If you got admitted to somewhere and decided not to go, or if you got rejected to all 10 schools that you applied to, or waitlisted in all 10, or I don't care. But if you are on the wait list, I will 100% second what Sherry has to say, that it is important for us to know, so that we know where you're at as well. You're often, if you're admitted into another program, you have a deposit deadline that you need to submit your enrollment deposit by. So if we know kind of what your situation is in the admissions committee, we can try to kind of accommodate different schools will do different things in different ways. Here at Texas McCombs, we'll try to accommodate you as much as possible, so you don't have to pay an enrollment deposit at another school, continue to be on the wait list from McCombs, and then a month later be admitted and come here and forfeit that enrollment deposit in another school. So yeah, keep us up to date on kind of what does kind of that look like. It's not going to necessarily have a huge impact in the final decision to be admitted, but it may impact the timeline in which we may review your application. So we will try to accommodate you as much as possible. Now I say that, and like sometimes we can't. So you need to be open to us saying no as well. We can't work with that timeline because of things that are happening with our own deposit deadlines, etc.
Yeah, you said it's possible. You had the disclaimer in there.
And from what I'm hearing, right, I think of this as more like a fluid process, and it's not like set in stone. And it's just like more like it depends on what the cycle needs, what kind of applicants you get, and of course the applicant themselves. And yeah, like I'm sure like you have some stories about the nagging waitlisters. Do you, like somebody who sends you flowers and probably other things? Do you have any stories?
Yes. There are always folks with interesting tactics to get the admissions committee's attention to their
Tell
file.
us stories. Tell us stories.
Yeah, stories.
I have one in particular that it's kind of funny, and this was a while ago. It was a while back.
Change the names.
I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to tell for which program it was, but this was an individual that was waitlisted, and they asked us for our mailing address, and we shared that it's also on our website. So they ended up sending us a cake, which was like, okay, I've never seen that before. And
Did they jump out of it?
it was right. It was like, okay, so it's like we got a cake for the admissions committee, and the first thing that comes to mind to me, I was like, is there poison in the cake? You know, like who's gonna be the first person to try that cake? So we kind of left it in our lunch break room, and then there was somebody that was, I would consider them
I
brave
think the poison
to
in the cake
try
goes to the
the
billing
cake.
department, not the
I
admissions.
I know, but I was like, I don't know that I want a cake. I don't know that you don't need to send us a cake or
Yeah,
cookies or flowers or anything of the sort. So I think you would want to kind of demonstrate your interest through the avenues that we provide you. It's sometimes the attention that type of attention may be a deterrent to the final decision. So because if we fast forward to you trying to gain a consulting position with McKinsey, and if you're in that process, you should not be sending the McKinsey recruiters cakes. You
Right.
know, so kind of think about the unintended consequences of some of those actions. So at the end of
Maybe
the day,
space cakes?
yeah, at the end of the day, I ended up trying the cake. The cake was a good cake.
Yeah.
So thank you
What
for
kind
the
of cake?
cake. It was just a plain vanilla cake. I think it had
Boring.
like it had a strawberry whipped cream type of, so it's fluffy and light.
Maybe it was
A little
strawberry
bit
shortcake.
a little bit boring, yes. But I think also, I don't know, like if you're gonna send a cake, do you want to be bold with your cake choice and flavor choice, or do you want to be more like middle of the road? Everybody's gonna enjoy my cake. So,
I'm
but
picturing
anyway,
like school branding on the cake, like get something
Yeah.
that shows your commitment.
yeah, there was a couple like specific. There was one specific thing about the applicant in the cake, which was kind of funny. So it wasn't, yeah. But anyways,
But it's funny because it doesn't really go both ways. You see it all those like MBA fairs, masters fairs, like all the schools with the swag, and where they're essentially like bribing them to apply to you, and yet in the reverse. So don't get the wrong idea. I think kind of like any object could be perceived as perhaps a bribe or just a little bit weird.
yep.
So
It is, but I just have one thing to say, at least from my perspective, and what I encourage my clients to do often is, if you can be creative and you want to do something creative, I've seen in the past things work. I mean, some pretty off the wall things, but limericks and songs and drawings. And, if my client is creative and has an outlet, maybe he or she is a rapper, and that, and they're really, and they can do something creative that is acceptable at the school. You don't want to inundate them. That's another thing. You don't want to inundate them. But I encourage them to do that, make it fun. The admissions committee, we're all humans, as you can see, and we enjoy things, again, not over the top and not any kind of bribe, but something that creatively shows your passion for the program. I absolutely encourage that and have had a lot of success over the years.
Yeah, that
so look, I think
actually
it really
reminds me
depends
too.
from.
I
Oh,
was going to
sorry.
say, just kind of reminds, because a lot of folks that are on the wait list will think that, or the first thing that they'll do is like, I need to engage with the school more, which is great. But kind of be careful on how you engage. But let's say you decide to attend an event, be a virtual event that's a small group chat virtually, or maybe it's an in-person event. If you do decide to engage in that manner, make sure you introduce yourselves and let us know that you are in the wait list and that you're there because you want to learn more about the school and you want to connect with us. Because I feel like it's a little bit of a wasted opportunity if you take the time to either attend a virtual event or come to an in-person event. And you come here, you interact with us, and if it's a larger kind of group event, we're never going to know that you were really there.
Right.
So share that story with us, share where you're at, share kind of what you're intending to gain from that interaction, because then we can answer your questions, we can get to know you better, and I think it makes it for more of a win-win situation at the end of the day. I'm not saying that you need to attend an event if you're on the wait list. That's not what I'm saying. But if you have an opportunity to do and you think you will kind of be a positive for your particular situation, then by all means, if the school is hosting an event, you can attend, but kind of don't disguise yourself as a prospective student when you're really on the wait list, right? And the other thing that I'll say is that it's not okay is for you to crash an event that's not for you. So it wouldn't make sense for somebody that's on the wait list to come to an application overview of mine because you've already applied and you've already kind of.
Or the admitted students day.
Even if you bring cake, you can't go.
Yeah. Oh no, Rodrigo's frozen. It's a really good point he made about making yourself known.
That's like.
You got frozen, Rodrigo. You want to repeat the last 15 seconds of what you said?
Yeah, sorry about that. Everybody went frozen for me. But just kind of, again, make yourself known and don't crash events that are not for you was the last thing that I was going to say. So most people know when our admitted student events are. So those are for admitted students. Don't show up in an admitted student event as a waitlisted person.
Awkward.
That's just very cringeworthy.
Totally cringeworthy. No, I was going to say it's a really good point to make yourself known because I think that's not necessarily intuitive to a lot of people. Like they feel probably a little bit frustrated and maybe a mix of embarrassment, and they don't want to necessarily disclose that they're there and maybe look like, oh, I'm the desperate creepy guy or gal. But absolutely make yourself known. Doesn't really help to be in incognito mode, whether it's in person or online. But introduce yourself there. Have courage and confidence in yourself and your decision to go forward and continue, in essence, courting the school and trying to be. We always make this comparison, guys, about how the admissions journey is a little bit like dating, right? Finding the right fit, and so it's courtship in a way, in that professional way, not in the creepy cake way. And what you were saying, Sherry, there was also an interesting point about like doing something creative. Now, first of all, Duke is maybe one of the more creative cultures in terms of admissions, with the famous, unique things list as an essay. So that just makes me want to say, know the culture of the school. Hopefully at the point when you've submitted the application, you've already gone into the research and have a really good handle on what this school is about. And that's why you're applying, because it resonates with you and your values and culture. So you should have an idea about that already. And if it's more on the traditional side of the spectrum as a school culture, then, maybe like the video of you tap dancing, then, the names of the school is probably not the best idea. So, and if you don't have a sense of that, I think talking to current students and alumni about like what they would do if they were waitlisted for this school, what they would do. And that will give you a little bit more refined idea of what would be appropriate or not.
Can I add one thing to that as well? It's something I've been thinking about, and I wanted to make sure to mention. I think, Rodrigo, you'll appreciate this. You want to be strategic when you're reaching out to the admissions committees, not inundating them. They have a lot to do. So sometimes people are like, oh, more is better than less. And in this case, no, not less is more, but strategic in your communication with them. Think about the timing, look at when the rounds are, are they going to be considering you for when you're giving updates for your wait list application, but don't overwhelm them with updates, because that's not a good idea. And like you said before, also, Rodrigo, definitely following the instructions of each school. And like you said, Eric, also knowing in kind of the culture of the school, so you don't want to be submitting things that they're not even going to open. They may not open a YouTube video. For some programs aren't going to do that. So you need to know what the rules are and follow them. But anyway, I just want to say, don't inundate them, because some people just want to send more and more and more. And I'm like, no, you don't want to do that.
That is much appreciated. And I will say that you don't want to be known as a person that calls every Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. and just goes down the line our offices, which are in a row, and the phone will ring and we'll know it's that person checking in.
Oh no.
It's like you don't want to be like the check-in person that is asking the same question from our team, because the answer is going to be the same and you're going to be known as that person. And I don't know that you want to be known as that person.
So here I have a question, speaking on behalf of the applicants, what do you guys do in order to make them at ease while they're on the wait list? because I think when I'm waiting, all I need to know is my status. Am I going to go ahead, or when am I going to know anything, or it's just open ended, or I'm going to be in this limbo state, so to speak. So what do schools typically do to make it easy for those on the wait list?
I'll share a little bit about what we do at Texas McCombs. We have a waitlist webinar, which is we have some slides, but also answering questions for individuals that were waitlisted for that round. So it's kind of one waitlist webinar per round. We record it and put it in our waitlist community so people have access to it. Waitlisted applicants can contact us anytime via the email box, so they can always again check in, but again, don't overdo it. Be strategic about it, as Sherry mentioned. We kind of give you the opportunity within your waitlisted community to submit updates to your file. So if you have a new resume, if you have new test scores, you can kind of do it yourself and kind of do those updates. When we are ready to start reviewing the waitlist, the first place we usually go to is who are the individuals that have interacted with us. So we look for updates to your file. So, and then from then on out, we have an initial discussion about, okay, how many spots might we have available? How many people do we need to further vet? And then we have kind of take a short list of the waitlist, and the admissions officers will proactively reach out to those individuals to see where they're at. So are you still interested in the program? Have you gotten to any other schools? We have scholarships on the table. If you're offered admission, will you come here to Texas McCombs? What questions do you have? And then kind of after gathering that information, we come back and make a decision to either admit or deny that applicant, or take no action. We may sometimes take no action at that time too. So the admissions committee will reach out if there are clarifying questions that need answered. So I think for the applicant to be readily available to have those conversations is important as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about if a student is denied acceptance? Krithika asked if you had any ways of helping people cope with the wait list. Are there ways that you help with coping with not being accepted? And obviously people can apply again. We spoke about that at the beginning of the hour, but what are some things people really shouldn't do? And what are some things that would be looked at in a positive light?
Yes. Sherry, I'll kick us off,
Sure.
and then curious to hear what you experienced at Duke and with your clients too. But for us, the deny is a final decision, so you're not going to be able to petition for that decision to be changed. There is no appeals process for you to do it. The admissions teams are extremely kind of busy during the application cycle to really deliver any personalized feedback to somebody that has been denied. When we kind of share the deny news, if somebody reaches out to us, we can kind of have general feedback that we give. It's more of a templated message that we send out. But what I highly encourage individuals that have been denied to do is, if they are going to reapply, and when they decide to reapply, so fast forward from when you receive the denying letter to when the new application cycle is open, you know what the new essays are going to be, you know what the process is going to be, and you're getting ready to apply. See if you can schedule a time with one of the admissions officers or with one of our ambassadors, just to have a conversation about how can you best position that reapplication. Because at that time, as a prospective student, as an applicant, we'll be able to give you a little bit more information about where you're at that time, so that you can submit the strongest application possible at that time. I wish we could schedule phone calls with every applicant that we had that had a deny letter, and give them constructive feedback about how to submit a better application, but we just don't have that luxury of time during the admission cycle.
Yeah, and not only that, there could be some potential, like, not liability issues, but you know what I mean? Same with the reason that companies don't necessarily give feedback why they've not decided to hire you. So there's various reasons, but I really like your point about contacting an admissions officer to speak about the best way you can position yourself as a reapply, because that also is going to vary from school to school.
Yep.
If you've been rejected from more than one school and they're both still important to you, I mean, obviously you've applied to both of them, so they're presumably both good fits for you. That a customized approach is always the best. And
one thing I would add is when I was at Fuqua, and I'm not sure that they do it now or not, but some schools can't do offer feedback sessions. But you're right, not during the same cycle, because they just don't have the time. They're reading too many files and doing admissions committee and other things. But during the summer, we scheduled a certain number of feedback sessions where folks could sign up. And I had a lot of those conversations, and we'd look at, it'd be a little bit more than, I don't want to say the generic, form that says do this, do that. We could tailor it somewhat to them. But you're right, Eric, we have to be careful. I mean, we're not going to disclose if somebody got a terrible letter of recommendation. That's not something that we're going to share. But we might share other information that could help the candidate do better. And if they did a feedback session with us and then reapplied early, well, we didn't have early action then, but round one, that just showed us their commitment and demonstrated that they wanted to do everything they could to make themselves a stronger candidate. So I don't know what other programs do feedback sessions and whether Fuqua still does it, but I know that I've heard of a few, and you can always try. But I have to say, just shout out to you at Texas McCombs that I love the kind of personal touch that you guys provide to candidates, and that's one thing I tell my clients, because it means something. Not all programs are the same, and not all programs are that high touch, which I think is really admirable. It's beneficial.
Yeah, we don't need any recommenders getting any poison cakes. So
I do think this is I do think that the cake is going to spur a conversation among us about another episode of like bloopers, like admissions bloopers or something like that.
It might be an interesting topic for the AGAC, have admissions officers come with interesting stories about bloopers and maybe share at the lunch table or something like that, because I'll be curious to hear what my colleagues may have experienced as well. So
I'll have my camera ready.
Nice.
So I had to say that, Rodrigo, one question. Did the person get in?
Well,
the one who gave the cake.
They ended up coming off the wait list. So they ended up attending. Yep.
Okay. I was gonna say, you didn't say either way. He got off the wait list.
He got off. Oh yeah, no. We ended up admitting him. So we had some additional interactions and asked him about the cake. So.
And did you send him to some remedial baking classes?
The cake was pretty good. So I was a little disappointed that through the 2 years of the program, we never got another cake.
Oh.
It's like, come on.
So maybe now you're going to get more cakes. You might want to see what flavors.
Yeah, right. I like chocolate cake. You don't need to send, please don't send cakes. I'm trying to watch my figure, so.
It's almost bikini season. All right. That said, I think we've covered everything about waitlisting, about rejections, and what you can do. Obviously, it is not a waitlist is, as we covered, not the end of the world, but there are some things you can do to help come off that list in a positive way, cakes aside. And for rejections, getting feedback from people that you trust, people that you know. You can't expect it from the offices themselves, and reapplying the following year, hopefully. So anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sherry and Rodrigo, for joining us today. And if you guys like this episode, give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe to MBA Waves. We'll have next week, same time, same channel. We're talking about women in business, episode 95. We're almost on 100. So women mean business, supporting women on the MBA journey is our topic next week. I'm really excited about that one too. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on MBA Waves.
Thank you. Bye. Good to see you.